Hello. Given the tumultuous times we're living in at the moment, in Canada as we approach Canada Day 2025 on July 1st, I've put together this as an idea, as a kind of pre-party activity for all Canadians, wherever you are across the country, from British Columbia to Newfoundland, to self-organize and just create an activity together with friends, family, community, in the village, in the city, wherever you'd like and however you'd like. If you'd like to customize this to your own satisfaction, that's fine as well. But the idea of this is just to give you a framework, an idea of what you might do on Canada Day. And it's an activity that takes about 2 hours. So before the real party starts, the idea is that we follow a little process to maybe uncover a little bit, discover a little bit more about what Canada is today and what might be coming in the future. So the idea is it will feel different because of what's going on. People are stressed, people are anxious, there's diverging viewpoints across families, friends, and community. And we want to celebrate, but we do want to celebrate our sovereignty, our independence of the country we live in, but we don't want to ignore what's going on at the moment. So how might we do that? So the idea is on the following slides, and there's a LinkedIn site, there's an Eventbrite site, there's a page on Facebook where you can get the same information or similar information. Gives you an idea of a kind of a recipe or of a format for a pre-party celebration. It should take less than 2 hours. So the idea is you can do it online if you want. You can do it indoors, outdoors, with your family, at a friend's place or in a community centre, wherever you like. You don't need anybody's permission to use it. You don't need anybody's permission to change it. You can use it as you'd like to. So the idea is to prepare. The only materials you'll need is really some kind of space, and that could be an open space in a room or in a garden, etc., in some kind of community hall, a few sheets of paper, an alarm, a timer, a phone or a watch, and somewhere to sit. And this could be on chairs, or again, it could be on the floor, it could be outside, depending on what the weather's like, etc. Then the idea is to create some themes. So if you just take some kind of blank sheets of printing paper, I fold them into kind of three and cut them up so you can get 3 pieces of paper from one sheet of printer paper. And then the idea is to write the following themes on each of the individual pieces of paper. So on one piece of paper you might write connection, nature, exercise, language. So each one goes on a different piece of paper. And you can do all of these. You can add a few more if you have an idea of some of the themes you might explore. But the idea is just to create maybe 6, a dozen, 20 different pieces of paper with one of these words or expressions written on them. After that, depending on how many people we are, then you might, if say you have 40 people in a community centre, you'll need 40 chairs or 40 places to sit. And the idea is to group people together in 10 groupings of 4. So the groups should be people of 4 kind of facing each other in a small kind of circle on the equivalent of a clock. It would be at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock, looking inward. So we're kind of looking at each other in a group of 4, and there'd be 10 different groupings of the room. So the idea is you might look a little bit like this. Then once you've done that, you give one theme to each group of 4. So one of those pieces of paper with one of those themes written on it, you give it to the group of 4 and you announce the question. And again, you can change it if you'd like to. But the idea is the question is to start a question, at least, is what does Canada mean to me today? And again, you look at them through the different themes. And if the conversation meanders, that's fine. If there's silence, that's fine. But the idea is just to have a discussion amongst the group of 4 about the theme around that question. And you might have a group that looks at human rights. You might have a group that looks at good life, work, influence. And you allow 15 minutes for each round of discussion on this first round, so they have 15 minutes. If you only have small groups, or if you find that the idea of just one theme is too little, then what you might do write on one sheet of paper 3 different themes. For example, I wrote here exercise, work and worldview, which might stimulate a bit more discussion. If you do that, I suggest instead of giving 15 minutes, you might give 20 minutes to discuss the question through the 3 different themes. Once the alarm rings, everybody simply says thank you to the people they've been sitting with, and then break up and move to a different group. So everybody stands up, you break up, and you go and sit down in a different chair with a different group of people. And again, now you just start to discuss for 15 minutes a different theme with a different group of people. And you have a second round, a third round, etc. So as you can see, those kind of colors have changed in my little diagram there. And you can just move around, having as many rounds as you like, but we're kind of suggesting a minimum of 3 rounds. So at least you can discuss 3 discussions with 3 different groups of people would be good. So you're kind of rotating around groups, rotating around themes, but always around that central question. The guiding principles: speak from your heart. Share honestly about how you see things, how you're feeling, and speak from your direct experience. I saw, I feel, I felt, I saw, etc., etc. Speak from the I. When other people are speaking, listen intently. Try and understand, particularly if they see things differently to you. Just try and understand. You don't have to agree, but just try and understand how and why people see them differently. And between each person's speech, act, just leave a little space, a little silence between each person. So you're not overlapping. You're not risking cutting people off. You may be reflecting a little bit between each person's comments. And again, speak from the heart, speak from the gut. And I suggest you turn off phones and other distractions so you can really concentrate on the conversation and respect the people you're sitting down and talking with. So after you've done 3 or 4 rounds, we go into one new group. And here the question changes a little bit because you've had different conversations and with different people through different themes on the question. So now the idea is to ask, based upon the conversation, what's on the verge of emerging in my Canada, our Canada today? So what do you see is kind of just emerging from the conversations, emerging in Canada today, as we start to look forward a little bit to the future? And again, there's no right or wrong answers. You can say, feel, express whatever you feel, see, and want to. And final sharing round, once you've done 15 minutes in that group, then sit round in one big circle and maybe use a talking stick here or something, just to pass it around and let people share what they've learned, what they've heard, and see if you can start to identify commonalities between people, ideas, different ideas that have emerged, aspirations, and understanding that you might have gleaned from the discussions. And then start to identify together what 3 concrete actions could any of us start to do individually, as a subgroup, as an entire group as a result of the conversation. What are you, or what are we as Canadians willing to do to move Canada forward to this vision of what we have? So by the time you've done this exercise a couple of hours, you sit down with the different people, you go through the different questions, then hopefully you're feeling very Canadian. And so at the moment, what we suggest is everybody get together and celebrate as you see fit. It might be in a group of people, it might be looking at the future, it might be taking a walk in nature, going fishing, playing hockey, doing whatever that represents having a wonderful Canada Day for you. And with that, I wish you a wonderful Canada Day activity.